So good evening, everyone. Okay, so we are going to have a short session, about 40 minutes, right, on the NMAT examination. So in this session, we will look at all the things about, how the exam is being conducted, to what the exam is all about, various other things that you should keep in mind while you're going for the examination, and also to clear all the doubts that you have in your mind regarding the NMAT exam, so that we can take it here and clear it off in this one session itself. Okay, so feel free to ask questions. Me and Kushal both are going to together take the session. So if you are wanting to ask a question, put it in the chat and we'll reply to you as we go along. Okay, so I took my exam, the NMAT examination, on 14th, that is on Saturday, and I took it at the Chennai center of Mylapore. And this center, this is the only center available in Chennai right now for the examination. Unlike other years where, we had multiple centers where the exam was conducted, this time that's only one center. But having said that, that center is pretty big. And in one single, room, there are more than about 25 computers. Okay, so 25 people together take the test in that place, right? So that was where I took the test. I did not take the test this time from home because I already had taken it once before. So if you have booked it from home, then go ahead and check it out. Check out my video which I put for NMAT take from home. So that hasn't changed much at all, because the Examity portal has almost remained the same since they started off. Okay, so you can check that out from the YouTube. You can just go and search as to Examity take from home NMAT Ajay Zener, and you'll get that video that I have put up there. Okay, let's get into this. So firstly, let's make sure that, we know what all documents we need to carry when we are going for the NMAT examination. So you need to have a confirmation of appointment, which is a print of an email that you need to carry with you. That email you would have received when you booked your slot. If you have not got it, check the spam box. It would have gone into the spam. But this letter you need to carry, because this is the proof that you have booked your appointment, and this is the center that you're going to has been assigned to you as a center for taking the examination. Okay, so that's the very first thing that you need to carry with you. Second thing is, you will when you go to your NMAT login and log in into the portal, you will see there is a tab called as download admit card. So download your admit card and take a printout of that and keep it with you. You should be carrying this printout along with you when you are actually going for the examination. Okay, now one
I think Ajay sir is stuck. So no, I think Ajay sir is stuck. No, guys, please hold on. Please hold on. He'll rejoin. I believe there's some problem at his place or the network. I think, sir, there was some problem with your network. You are on mute, sir. You are on mute.
Yeah, I think the internet had some problem. Yeah.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Yeah. So carry one more admit ID proof if you have one with you. Okay, either the voter's ID or a PAN card or something like that, so that it's very you are very sure that if there is they ask for one more, you have one with you. Okay, so that's about all the documents to carry. There's no other document you need to carry with you apart from this. Now, see, the centers of NMAT are typically small, and they are normally packed. In a good center, you will get a locker. But I would still suggest you to carry as less items with you as possible, because they'll not allow you anything within the center, and everything has to be kept outside. In fact, the Chennai center is so bad that they will ask you to keep everything in the outside the center, on just right next to the stairs. So which is not a very safe place also. So carry as less valuables as possible. Okay. So I actually did not carry anything. I just carried just my ID card and went there. So check out the venue details beforehand, so that you know where to reach. It has happened so many times that people have reached the venue late because they did not check out the exact location of the venue, and you need to reach there at least half an hour before, because your exam starts 15 minutes before itself. Because 15 minutes before the start of starting time, they will ask you to log in, and once you're logged in, you can actually then go through the entire thing. So reach early so that you have enough time to settle down, and also get accustomed to that place a bit, because my center was really crowded and took me a bit of time to settle down there. Okay, so as I said, do not carry any valuables. You don't have to carry any pen or stationery because they provide you. And this time, the good thing is they were giving you normal A4 size sheet papers to write and do your calculations on, unlike the plastic sheet that they used to give earlier, which you had to rub and clean off before you can write again. But this time they gave stationery, and they also give you extra sheets. Okay, so apart from that, they'll give you a pen to write on, and that's all that you need to start your exam. Now, carry a water bottle with you, although you will not be allowed to take the bottle inside, but you can keep it outside, because the center that I went to had no provision for water. Okay, so make sure that you carry a bottle in your bag or in your hand so that you can just have it handy. So one of the things that you have to be very clear about is to check your computer before starting the exam. Every year we have seen students struggling with the computer after they have started the exam in the center. So make sure you check it. My mouse wasn't working, so I had to request them to change the mouse, and make sure all this is done before you start the examination. Because after starting the exam, if you ask them for any replacement, you're going to waste your time, because they can't stop your test, because the test is run by GMAT. So, they'll have no way to stop the clock, and you will lose time. So make sure you check everything before you start. And if there is even a minute problem, inform them so that they change your place, and they give you another place to sit and start your test. Now, when you start the NMAT examination, you have your NMAT ID. So that ID is what you will use as your login onto that computer, and they will give you a password when you go there. That password you will have to key in to log into the system. Okay, so your NMAT ID and your password are the two things that will be required. The password will be given at the center. Once you sign in, there is a non-disclosure agreement which you need to sign off within 2 minutes itself, which means you will read that and say, yes, you agree with it, and move forward. If you don't do that in 2 minutes, the system will log you off saying that you are, and then they can't do anything with the examination, because it'll just show you that, you have not signed the non-disclosure agreement. That's all. Okay, and you can't even log in after that. So make sure that you completely read it, or at least accept it, and go ahead within the first 2 minutes itself. Don't keep the screen open, right? Once you sign off the non-disclosure agreement, you're going to get all the instructions. Read the instructions carefully, and then the demo starts off. Please go through the demo, whatever the instruction is given in the demo, and the demo is for 10 full minutes, and it's a good amount of time. They'll ask you to click certain buttons, so you will get familiarized with the entire system, where the keys are, where to flag, where to click, where is the next button, everything, it's there in that demo itself. So once you do the demo, you'll be fully familiarized with the examination, the screen, and where exactly these buttons are and all that. Okay, so make sure that you do that, and it's very nicely made, so it'll give you a good familiarity with the entire interface. Then comes your last 3 minutes, where you'll have to choose the section order. Now, if you don't choose the section order within the last 3 minutes, the system will decide the section for you. So it's better to actually decide beforehand and go, so that you don't struggle with that there. And this time the section ordering is drag and drop kind of a system. So where you will drag each of the sections, the first section, second section, third section, and drop it into number 1, 2, and 3 slot, and you can then start the session. Okay, so I started my NMAT exam with QA as my first section, VA as my second section, and LR as my third section. You can follow whichever is comfortable for you. I will recommend that you try it out on your own before in your mocks. Be comfortable, with the sections, the order in which you want to choose the section, so that when you go there you have absolutely no confusion of how to go about it. Okay, I've been doing quant section for, I don't know, since the time I started off with NMAT, so I'm comfortable with that. And I also am comfortable taking the LR section at the end, so that's why I did that. So don't follow your own methodology based on what is your liking of and how you want to go about it. So these are
just
the
a couple of
yeah.
just a couple of things more. Sorry. Guys, please understand one thing I wish to repeat, although Ajay sir has mentioned this. This is drag and drop that you have to do. A lot of students sit there and get confused because I have not written the paper this year. But last year when I wrote the paper, a lot of students were confused how to do it. So please understand that it is drag and drop. So in your first place, you will have to drag a section and put it there as your first option. Drag the second one, drag the third one. So this is how you do it. Next important thing to understand is that please, this is no recommendation that all of you should do QA first. All of you should sit back at home, understand there are 6 combinations possible, 6 arrangements possible, and practice which you think you will be comfortable with a couple of times before you enter the paper. So your mock papers are the best place to practice the ordering of the sections. There is no recommendation from us that this is the right thing or this is the wrong thing to do. There exists nothing called as right or wrong thing to do. It is on the individuals how you want to take your paper. So some of the individuals say that when I'm fresh, I'm able to concentrate more, and hence I would want to take my difficult section up front. Some of the people will want a warm up before they get into a section which they feel is difficult. So it's a perspective that you look at the paper from. So what perspective you look at the paper from is what is going to help you to decide what order you want on the paper. Nothing more than that. No recommendations. Nobody should recommend anything on that for that matter. So don't go on Quora, YouTube, Facebook, try to figure out which one is the best one. Absolutely not required. Right, sir.
Okay. Okay, so this is the pattern of the exam. You have 36 questions in each of the section, totally 108 questions. And the language skill is the shortest section in terms of the time. So you have 28 minutes for that, 52 minutes for quantitative skills, and 40 minutes for logical reasoning. Okay, so the score ranges from 12 to 120. You can get a maximum of 360 and a minimum of 36 in this paper. Okay, so that's, everybody knows this pattern, right? So this paper is a computer adaptive paper, which means you can't go back on any question. You have to definitely mark a question to move ahead, and you need to be completing the full paper before you can go to the next section. If you don't complete, you will land up with penalty. Okay, so don't keep a track of the time. You need to manage your time really, really well. If you don't know a question, mark whatever you can and just go ahead, make some intelligent guess, or just mark randomly and go ahead. But you can't afford to lose time sitting and thinking over a question, because if you don't finish the paper on time, then you had it, because you are not going to then clear the cutoff. Okay, so the paper has to be finished. That's the first task at hand. Okay, so I hope this pattern is very clear. So this is what we discussed. So it's an adaptive test. You can choose this order sequence of the test, and section and overall score will be available right after the exam. So once you finish the exam, it'll ask you for ending the exam. The moment you end the exam, you'll get your scorecard in front of you. You can sit and write down and jot down your scores, and then you can close the test. The moment you close the test, it'll ask you for feedback. And if you have had some problem with the test, please mention that in the feedback, so at least GMAT comes to know about it and they can rectify that for the rest of the examination. Okay, so make sure that you give a nice feedback depending on, you know, what your experience was in terms of taking the test.
Guys, it is also very important, Ajay sir has mentioned this, I'm repeating this again, that while writing your mock papers, you should learn how to pace yourself in order to complete all 36 questions in each of the 3 sections. The best way to my mind is to look at your timer and always understand how many questions you should have done by that point in time. So let's say if you have 28 minutes and 36 questions on the English section, you should understand that you have less than a minute to solve a question. So if I'm down 13 minutes in my paper, I should have actually done about 16, 17 questions by that point in time. So I should have that idea that how much I should have done. And in case you are running really short, it's not a bad idea to randomly mark a couple of questions and pace up yourself according to the paper. So please be very careful while preparing, while writing the mocks. Learn how are you going to pace up yourself. This is very important thing on this, because if you leave 5 questions unattempted, those questions will be considered as wrong answered questions and you will be penalized for that. So be very, very careful that you are not leaving any question unmarked on the paper, right? And it is not a good idea to do the first, let's say 26 questions, and then mark random answers at the last end, because in random answers also you are not going to get your questions right. So please ensure that you are pacing up yourself really well on this paper. That's the trick to understand on this.
See,
Right.
so when Kushal said, you'll land up with negative marks for the if you don't finish the paper, negative marks is there. But apart from that, you'll also land up with a penalty. You'll never clear the cutoff if you don't finish off the paper on time. Okay. So make sure all 36 questions are attempted, and that's the task that you are looking forward to. Right. So let's talk about each of these sections. So this is more from a perspective of my paper, so that I did. So it gives you an idea about how the paper looks like. So in my paper was grammar heavy kind of a paper. It had a lot of sentence correction questions. The non-CAT classes are going on right now, and you should all, if your grammar is weak, you should definitely go through the classes. The recording is also available. Make sure that you understand each and every aspect of the grammar. The grammar part is easy. It is not a very difficult, question to do, but there were 9 questions in grammar in my paper. Okay, so and these are all sentence correction questions. So they'll give you a sentence and underline certain parts of that sentence, and you have to mark which of those part is having an error, or there's also an option saying there is no error in any of the parts. Okay. Second thing, was the analogy. There were 7 analogy questions in my paper, and these were not purely based on vocabulary or something. It was more to understand the relationship between the two words which are given to you, and then choose the right relationship within the option. So it was not tough vocabulary. It wasn't some very unfamiliar words. It was more of easy words only. So you don't have to worry about vocabulary in these kind of questions much. Okay. Then we had parajumble questions, 4 of them with 4 sentence parajumble. And most of the parajumbles were easy to do because the connectors were easily identifiable. And you'll also see that most in the options also, when you look at through the options itself, you can do these questions. So these were the easy part of the entire paper. The other easy part was the prepositions part, which was again grammar, and where preposition questions were there. And this again is in every year the easier part of the English paper, right? So this year also it was quite easy. Contextual vocabulary question, there were 4 of them. This was like a 2 or 3 sentences given to you, and out of that sentence 2 words were missing, or a single sentence given to you in which 2 words were missing, and you had to pick up those 2 words from the options given to you. And why it is put as 3 plus 1 is there was one single question in my paper where it was not purely a vocabulary question, because it was more of a para completion, because half of the paragraph, half of the line was given to you, and you had to figure out the other half, and the sentence was given there as the option. Okay, so contextual vocabulary question there. And I had then 2 reading comprehensions. Both of them were easy reads. One was on sociology, and one was on Karl Marx, and I forget the name of the other person, but then it was about sociology, and the other one was about renewable energy. Both were quite an easy read. It was easy to actually handle, and then you could it would be somewhere about 500 words kind of a passage with questions mostly related to inference, understanding of what is there in the paragraph and what is not. So there were questions like the author would agree to which of the following, or which of the following is there in the passage, which of the following is not there in the passage. So these are the kind of questions which are there, but then these are not as tough as your CAT question. So it was easy. And anybody who has done a reasonably okay practice for CAT this should be easy to sail through. Okay. Now, language skill section was the easiest section according to me in the paper. 28 minutes is more than sufficient to do this paper. Because in grammar questions, analogy questions, prepositions questions, and the contextual vocabulary questions, you are actually not going to take any time. Hardly it will take you half a minute to read and understand and mark the answer and move ahead. So where are you going to spend time in this? Probably you're going to spend a little bit more time in parajumbles, about a minute, minute and a half, because it's again option based. So you can check the option and mark the answer. More importantly, reading comprehension, because that's where you'll probably sit and spend a little bit of time. Now, see, reading comprehension does not, the paper structure is such that, you can't determine where the reading comprehension is going to be. Last year, my paper itself started with the reading comprehension passage. This year, on the other hand, my paper started with grammar. I had some 5-6 grammar questions and analogy questions, and then only the reading comprehension, first reading comprehension came in. And then I had quite a lot of questions coming in, and my second reading comprehension came in by somewhere almost at the 30th question. And then I had 2-3 questions after that of the rest of them, and the test got over. Now, be very careful here that, you don't spend a lot of time reading and missing out on the timing. Make sure that you read fast, get out with, mark the questions, move ahead and finish off the paper. Do all the 36 questions. It's very easy. This time is more than sufficient to do that. I don't think there'll be any problem whatsoever in finishing the paper.
Guys,
Kushal,
very low hanging, yes, sir. Guys, very low hanging fruit on this paper would be, to my mind, prepositions.
Yeah.
Prepare for an hour and a half before you get into the paper, and all prepositions can be completed and done, and you can very easily get a good score on that particular preposition section. Another point to understand is analogy. You have got 7 questions. Either you know it or you don't know it. That's it. You can't manufacture over there, sitting over there. You just have to eliminate from the options that you have that, okay, this cannot be the answer, this can be the answer. That's all. So time consuming section, as Ajay sir very rightly pointed out, that parajumbles can be a time consuming section a bit, and then reading comprehension. Now, my only suggestion to all of you is that when it comes to reading comprehension, it is not, if you're running short of time and at last you are coming across a reading comprehension, it is not a bad idea to go through the questions first and then come back to the passage, so that even in the first couple of paragraphs, if you have your answer, at least you can mark 1 or 2 odd questions and can move on. But please understand, if you don't mark an answer at the moment, then you cannot move to the next question. So you will have to pace up yourself once again really well. So please be very, very, very careful. Like Shweta pointed out, we have today posted a video on our YouTube channel on prepositions itself. That's the link for you. You can watch that, and that of course is not covering everything, but for all of our students, we are conducting the grammar classes there. I believe you would have covered preposition section also. So please ensure that you are doing that really well. Again, contextual vocabulary, either you know the word, you don't know the word, you can very quickly get through. So don't think that this 28 minutes is going to be a lesser time for you. It's not going to be a lesser time. It's very doable section. Right, sir.
So RC's difficulty level, Nikhil, is way, way less than that of the CAT. So it's pretty much an easy RC, easy to read, easy to answer question. And overall, it should not take you 15 minutes also. You can finish off both the RCs combined in less than that time. Okay. So it's pretty much easy paper as compared to RC. There's no comparison with CAT at all. Right?
Tushita, the reading comprehension questions comes together. That means one reading comprehension will have 4 questions, and all 4 questions will be one after the other. Will the 2 reading comprehensions will be back to back? That we cannot say. So it can be anywhere spread across on the paper, but from a particular reading comprehension, all 4 questions will come one after the other.
Okay, so coming to logical reasoning, as every year, this year also in the logical reasoning part, you have critical reasoning as your major section. So you have 16 questions from there. This includes questions related to course of action, questions related to conclusion, strengthening of argument, assumptions, implicit and explicit arguments. Okay, so these are the areas from where you will have the questions coming in. And critical reasoning is a must do in for LR, because it is not time consuming. Also, you can just read quickly and understand the passage and then answer the question and move ahead. So one of the strategy that you will have when you're looking at the logical reasoning question is to make sure that be good at critical reasoning, so that you can finish off your questions faster there, score marks, because you never know whether you'll be able to crack an input output question or a analytical reasoning set. You should definitely be able to crack. But a puzzle or some other kind of question which is there, you may probably not be able to crack it, because it may not click you at that point of time. But critical reasoning is pretty much easy. Please do an extensive preparation of all the kind of critical reasoning questions which are there. There are all these kind of questions which came in the paper. You should definitely be able to practice at least about 100 questions and go for the NMAT exam. Okay. Apart from that, there were 2 sets of input output. And then there was one analytical reasoning set. Mine was a matrix arrangement set. It was about some people who were traveling in a train and what they ate and where did they get in from. So it was kind of a matrix arrangement and what magazine were they reading. Okay, so normal matrix arrangement, very easy one. I would term it easier than even some of our sheet questions. There were 3 questions from the Venn diagram. So some kind of questions like this. So they had given one triangle, one circle, and then they said some people are drinking tea, some are drinking coffee, some are drinking juice, and then they ask you questions based on that. Syllogisms, there was one question, all those kind of questions where all cats are bats, all bats are mats, those kind of questions. And then we had a puzzle and some other kind of questions like directions, family tree, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now the problem with the logical reasoning question is you have to move ahead if you're not able to figure out a certain question. In one of the I actually skipped both of my input-output question because I'm not comfortable doing input-output question because the time is 40 minutes and there are 36 questions. I don't want to spend a lot of time. I just move ahead and I went on to do all the other questions, and that was good enough for me to score a reasonable mark in that section. Okay, so make sure that you are taking a call to move ahead and you are not stuck into questions, and you have enough time in hand as you look at each of the other questions and finish off the paper till the end. Right?
Guys, I think, so just a second on the previous slide. Yeah. Guys, I think the most challenging part on the entire paper happens to be logical reasoning for me, at least, if Ajay sir wants to differ on the opinion. But understand one thing, the only way you can clear this particular section of the paper is by doing critical reasoning. There is no other way out. If you're not good at critical reasoning, you are going to land up in a great trouble. So please ensure that you sit back at home and practice critical reasoning questions. Now, to all the GradSquare students, we have given you the material. That material has got critical reasoning book on it. Please pick up that, solve that entire book, and then only get into the paper. We have listed for you what kind of critical reasoning questions are being asked. Please ensure you pick up those critical reasoning questions in your preparation and do that. Point number 1. Point number 2, pace up yourself once again really well on this section, because I believe 40 minutes is not too much of a time to do this particular section, because sometimes critical reasoning becomes a little more lengthy to read and decide, and you will get frustrated if you are not in a habit of reading those critical reasoning questions. Okay, so please ensure that you are practicing critical reasoning exhaustively, because as sir rightly pointed out, input output questions, we don't really know whether we'll get them right or not. That has been the story since we have been looking at the NMAT paper, that input output questions, students have always found it difficult. So spend 1.5 minutes on the input output set, and if you are able to crack it, great for you. If you're not able to crack it, you'll have to mark and move on. There's no other way out, right? So it is given. Now then, if those 8 questions are gone, then you are only left with one major section on the paper, which is 16 questions of critical reasoning. So if I don't do critical reasoning well, if I'm not able to get input output all the questions correct, then I'm gone on this section effectively. So please be very careful, prepare critical reasoning and then get into the paper. You have the resources with you to prepare for critical reasoning. Do not get into the paper without preparing for critical reasoning. You are going to regret that for sure. Now, Venn diagram kind of questions are very easy. Again, a low hanging fruit for you. Your analytical reasoning set, at some point in time, we have found analytical reasoning sets to be very easy. At some point in time, we have found them to be difficult. So can't really comment anything on there. But Venn diagrams, syllogisms, prepare a bit of critical reasoning, directions, family tree. These are some of those questions which are present on the paper. So be very clear about that and prepare and get into the paper. This paper you can clear if you strategically know what to prepare and what not to prepare. That's all, right? If you go into the paper without being prepared, you do not stand a chance on this particular paper, because it's a paper where you will have to attempt 120 questions in 120 minutes. Sorry, 108 questions in 120 minutes, which is then going to be not so easy task for you, right? So be prepared before you get into the paper. Right, sir?
Okay, then comes your quant skill. For me, the quants paper was a tougher part of the NMAT, and it has been like that almost ever since that we have seen this adaptive paper, because 52 minutes is the time and you have 36 questions to do, and then you have 2 DI sets in that. So it's not easy to actually pace up. Okay, so if you look at the paper, in my paper, there were 2 data interpretation questions. Each question set had 4 questions in them. So totally 8 questions there. There was 5 data sufficiency questions, 10 questions from arithmetic, out of which in my paper, there were about 4 questions from profit and loss, 1 from interest, one from percentages. There were one question each from time and work and mixture solution and so on, ratio, proportion, and so on, and averages. Okay. So arithmetic heavy. There were 4 questions from algebra. One was from logarithm and the other one was from geometric progression. And then there were 2 other questions. One of them were to find out the number of solutions for an equation, and one on roots. So algebra, 4 of them. PNC probability 6, and surprisingly for me, there were 5 questions from probability and 1 from PNC. And this has been the case last year too. It was a probability and PNC heavy paper last year as well. And then number systems, there were 3 questions. One was on unit digit of numbers. And there were other 2 questions on specific, series and stuff like that. So this is by far, according to me, a tricky section, because if you are not pacing yourself up and moving forward, you'll not be able to complete all the 36 questions. The other thing is, although this looks like an adaptive paper, for me the math paper wasn't adaptive at all, because I saw at the end of it that there were a lot of questions which were easy. So make sure that you push your score forward, push your self forward, and make sure you are able to see till the last. And don't do that in only the last 5 minutes. Pace yourself up so that uniformly, so that you have enough time to solve questions also. Otherwise, you'll see 5 easy questions at the end of it, and you'll have just 2 minutes left on the clock, and you'll anyway not be able to solve it. Okay, so make sure you are pacing uniformly throughout the paper. Now, data interpretation, the 2 sets that I got, one of them was a tables question, a very easy calculation. There was nothing much in that calculation at all. And it was straightforward, direct. And then there was another question which had a bar graph and a line graph within a graph itself. And it had 2 questions which were very easy. The other 2 had a little bit more of calculation. So DIs are like that. So most of them will be easy questions to do. Do all the easy questions, skip the question which you feel are really, really difficult to sit and calculate, 4-digit calculation and all, you can skip and go ahead. Okay. So make sure that you pace up uniformly across the paper.
Sir, do we have the calculator, on-screen calculator?
No, we don't have. No.
Okay. Soumya, I stand corrected there. You don't have the on-screen calculator there. Please make a note of that. I believe, guys, very strongly that PNC probability last year also the same thing happened. That last year I remember I wrote that paper and I think I got about 7-8 questions coming from PNC probability. We will not be surprised if going forward on other exam papers that students are writing, they might end up getting this number a little more higher and get about 7 or 8 or 9 odd questions from permutations, combination, and probability. So please prepare permutations, combination, probability and get into the paper. Easy questions to do. Those are not very difficult questions to do. Trust me on that. I have not written it this year, but last year the questions were not very difficult. So you should not leave permutations, combination, probability and get into the paper. Again, an arithmetics heavy paper. So prepare arithmetics. Good part of this particular paper is you find no geometry questions out there. It is not an algebra heavy paper. So there also you don't really have to be bothered about. So geometry and algebra is where typically students struggle a lot, right? So that's precisely what it is. Now you can see profit and loss. You've got about 4 questions on it. Now 4 questions on profit and loss. Prepare that topic and get into the paper. No big deal. So if you can handle your percentages really well, applications of percentages in terms of profit, loss, and discount, compound interest, simple interest, you will be able to get the questions right? So please ensure that you do that. One last pointer on this particular paper: do not think that I'm going to leave entire data interpretation, because data interpretation, some of these data interpretations are very easy. So why miss out on those questions? Now, to my mind, approximate number of questions that you should ideally get right. I'm just taking a guess and I don't really have a number, an authentic number available with me. Please keep that on your mind. But I believe if out of 36 questions you are able to attempt seriously about 26-27 questions and get about 90% of accuracy there, I think you should have done really well on this particular paper. That is my sense on this particular paper, that 26-27 good attempts where you have applied your mind, got down to the answer, marked the answer properly, I think should do the task for you. And as I just pointed out, when he came out of the paper, we had a conversation. He told me exactly the same story, that at the end, initially he was thinking that he's struggling on the paper of the quant section, but at the end he realized there were about 5-6 questions which were very easy at the end. And it's not an adaptive paper. because the scores reflect that it is not an adaptive paper. So we cannot officially say that it is not an adaptive paper. They claim it to be an adaptive paper, but our feeling
But it is
is
not
that
like GMAT for sure.
it is not like GMAT for sure. So please be very careful on that. Ensure that you're pacing up yourself well. Last 5-6 questions, you're leaving yourself at least about a 7-8 minutes, 9 minutes in your hand to tackle those last 5, 6, 7. I'm not saying necessarily you will get easier question, but if at all you get an easier question and you are not finding time, then you will always feel bad about it, right? So ensure you are pacing up yourself really well on the paper. So which types of questions should we aim first to solve in the quantitative section? Shashwat, it is not in your hand. You cannot look at that entire paper, no? So how will you decide which question
You
you
can
will
only
attempt
see
first?
one question at a time. You answer
You
that
can
question, right? Question is gone. You can't even see that after that.
exactly. So you can't decide which questions to attempt first and which questions to attempt later. So it's one question at a time on a screen, answer that and move on. There's nothing that you can do. And in anticipation, don't leave the present question. Don't think that, let me leave this and I will get an easier question later. So that is something that I don't want you to do. I've got a couple of more questions, sir. Is there no negative marking? I'm not sure who is that student. I'll refer to it as SN. Please understand that there's no concept of negative marking in an adaptive paper. It is the score levels that you're talking about. So if a question happens to be of, let's say, a score level of 145 on your paper, then if you get it wrong, it comes down. If you get it right, it goes up. And at the end of the paper, at which level you are, that level is assigned to you as your score. So it's not score per se in terms of conventional sense. It is a level at which you are, right? So you will be penalized if you get a question wrong. You will be penalized if you do not attempt the questions on the paper and you leave the paper unattempted at the end of the paper. Let's say 5 questions you left unattempted, you will be penalized for that. Adaptive paper in the sense, sir, if we get a question right, then the next question will be of more difficulty level. Yes, Dhruv, that's primarily what is the meaning of an adaptive paper, that if you get the present question right, you are taken to the next level. Of course, next question has to be difficult from the previous one and your level improves. That is fundamentally adaptive paper. But we think that this paper is not in its true sense an adaptive paper. It's absolutely nothing close to paper like GMAT for sure, right? Way different from that particular paper. Is there sectional cutoff in NMAT? Yes, Aditya, there's absolutely sectional cutoff in NMAT. We are going to talk about that shortly. We will look at all the last few years papers and make you understand what kind of cutoffs are there. Can you show once again VRC summary? Yes, Pallav, we'll do that.
VRC?
Yes, sir.
1 minute.
No, Anirudh, it is not like CAT paper where you have, the correct answer and the wrong answer and negative marking and positive marking. It does not work like that. It's an adaptive paper. You can go on to our YouTube channel and we would have done a video, I believe, which explains you what do we mean by adaptive paper. I think last year we had done that video, so you'll have to go a little backwards on that particular channel. Is there any theta questions?
There is no theta question. See, adaptive paper cannot have theta questions in it. Okay, please go and watch Varun's video. It is put up on the YouTube channel of what is an adaptive test. Ramkumar, please share it to everyone. You have sent it to me as direct message.
We'll get that video on your class groups as well.
It's there in the chat
box. You can take the link from there, or I'll ask Sanjukta and Archana to send it in your class groups as well. Please ensure you watch that video.
Yeah,
you will understand what adaptive paper means.
Got it? Yeah, let's go ahead.
Right, let's go ahead.
Okay, now let's talk about the cutoff of the paper. Now, see, this year's paper is almost similar to what it was last year. So there is paper doesn't. In fact, I told Kushal after coming out of the test that the paper looked like as if the questions that were also almost similar. Okay, so it is almost the same kind of paper that we are talking about here. I really don't think the cutoffs are going to change much unless and until there are so many people going to write the exam as compared to that of last year, right? So quickly to just go through this. If you see this, your sectional cutoff of 2021, 2020, 25 went at 235. 76, 76, 76 was the marks in that year. And then after that, the very next year, it was remaining at 232, which is 76 in the language skill, 71 in logical reasoning, and 70 in quantitative skill. And last year also, it was 232 only, and 78, 72, and 69 because the paper was like this year, so the cutoff was almost similar, but then it went a mark lower as compared to last year, right? So what does it look like for this year? So this year it looks like almost going to be the similar thing. So I think the English paper is a bit more easier if it is going to remain the same, because last year there were 3 reading comprehension, right, Kushal?
Yes, sir. There were 3 reading comprehension.
There were only 2. So if there are only 2 reading comprehensions, then the paper is going to be much easier to attempt. So which means the cutoff may go a bit up, maybe 2 marks up. The logical reasoning is going to remain at the same levels. Quantitative skills is also going to remain at the same level. So we feel that the cutoff will remain at about 231 to 234 as the cutoff. And as I mentioned here, optimum attempts is to attempt all the questions, because don't leave any questions. You land up with penalty. If you land up with penalty, you are not going to clear the cutoff. Okay. So language skill is easy, logical reasoning is moderate, and quantitative skills is also moderate. Gun for a score of about 80, 85, 90 in your language skills, that's quite possible. And a score of 75 and above in both logical reasoning and quantitative skills. You should be then able to clear the cutoff very easily.
Guys, just to give you an idea, Ajay sir has already attempted that paper, and after evaluating the paper, during the paper, he has been able to score well. So you can understand that the question paper is not very difficult if you stay concentrated on the paper and try to do the paper really well. Scoring heavy on this paper is not a very difficult task. Point number 1. Point number 2, before you start asking me about variety of things, let me tell you one thing. NMIMS Mumbai, every single year for the last 5-7 years, we have got this situation wherein the cutoff score has cleared the interview also. So it doesn't matter beyond the cutoff. That last year the cutoff was 232. We must be having at 232, 233 students clearing the final interview and getting into the B school. So absolutely no hesitation in saying that any score beyond which clears the cutoff, you stand a very good chance to get into that B school. You will have to really do bad on your interview to not get through this particular college once you get the calls. Now, there will be a bit of questions at what you should be looking at. I think, sir, there was one question at the beginning where a student had given me a score, but I was not able to answer. I think I told them that we will respond shortly. There was 226. Yeah, Ruwan Malik.
So Ruwan, I don't think NMIMS will cutoff will go as low as 226. So that's gone. So you at 226, you should be able to get all the other calls. XUBHR, KJ Somaiya, also TAPME, and any other college below that also. So
SPJ and global cutoffs are going to go a lot lower, so you don't really have to be bothered. I think at 226 you will be able to clear that.
Yeah, I don't think this SPJ and global program is not a great program to apply for. So
yes.
Ruwan, so it's expensive and placements aren't that great as of.
So right. Guys, a very crackable paper. Please ensure that you try your level best to clear this particular paper. A very good college to get into. I can vouch for the college, not because I am from that particular college, but I've seen this over and over again for last several years, where students have gone into this college and have really done well and ended up with with great experiences. We have never got a student who has come back and cribbed about the experience from NMIMS Mumbai. Howsoever may be the batch size and what all, I'm not going to get into specifics at this moment. I just want you to convert the call for you, and then you come back and talk to me about whatever reservations you have. But please ensure that you try your level best to clear this paper. Get that call in your hand, and then we will discuss whether we should go and not or should not go for that particular college. Right. So I think, sir, that's about it. We are exhausted with the questions,
Yeah.
and wish you all the best, guys. Sincere request, please write this paper really well with whole heart into it and try to clear this particular paper.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.